Well, for more on the week in federal politics, I'm joined now by three MPs from the foyer of the House of Commons. Aaron O'Toole is a Conservative MP for the Ontario riding of Durham. Dan Harris is the NDP MP for the riding of Scarborough Southwest. And Wayne Easter is the Liberal MP for the PEI riding of Malpeque. All three of you, welcome. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for being here.
Aaron O'Toole, let's talk about, we have to start with what really has dominated question periods all this week, and that is a lot of the fallout from the Auditor General's report. Aaron O'Toole, as a government member, how do you answer to Canadians who are asking questions about when the Auditor General says he has lost track and he says he hasn't gotten accounting from the government of $3.1 billion in money that was supposed to go to anti-terrorism programs, and the Auditor General says he can't find it and the government can't find it? Well, what do you make of that? What do you say to Canadians?
I think it's important to say exactly what the Auditor General said, which is that he believes the money went in the area of public safety and anti-terrorism, but it wasn't properly categorized. You know, you'll hear the opposition use words like lost and things like that. The Auditor General has not said that. And I think if you look at the period 2001 to 2009, all Canadians understand that post 9/11, starting with the Liberal government through to ours, public safety has been a priority. There's been spending in our airports with CATSI. There's been spending at the border. There's been spending through police forces across the country. Federal government's made investments to make sure Canadians are safe. That money has been spent. What the Auditor General is saying is that needs to be categorized better and tracked better from its origin through to its expense.
What do you say, though, when people say, just to say that there's not been a proper accounting of it, that shouldn't mean that people shouldn't be worried about it, because they point to things like gazebos that were built on the budget that was supposed to go to border security. People say, well, we've seen this, we've heard this story before, and if you have $3.1 billion, which he says he's not been able to fully account for, and the government's not been able to fully account for, people say, well, something wrong there.
Well, Martin, I think people actually say this is why we have an Auditor General and why there has been this type of audit going on in Canada, to make sure that we properly account and categorize the funds expended. Canadians want the government to invest in public safety. Our government has made unparalleled investments to make sure that Canadians are safe, so that we help law enforcement track down plots like we've seen with VIA lately. These are very important investments, but it's important to show that the money was spent in the areas that it was intended. The Auditor General said that. What we can take from it, what we can learn, and what this government is looking at from that is how can we better track and categorize that spending. And remind you, it goes back to 2001. Half that period was prior to this government, but I think we all agree that expenditures in this area are important.
Okay, Dan Harris, what do you make of this Auditor General's report? He did say that he has no proof that the money has been misspent. He just can't track it completely. What do you make of it?
Well, and it's actually the second half of that quote that's important to consider, because even though he can't prove that the money was misspent, he can't prove that it was actually spent well. And we've been asking time and time again in question period this week to ask the government to, and I hate to use the cliche, but show me the money. And as to date, they're not able to actually show us where that money was spent. So until they're able to do that, we've got $3.1 billion of taxpayers' money that's just hanging out there that we don't actually know where it was spent. And that's why we've been calling for an investigation to actually get to the bottom of why that was. And of course, I mean, moving forward, we need to have much stronger scrutiny and much stronger regulations to ensure that government money is well spent. And that's why the opposition has to, for instance, get more time on budget implementation bills to actually debate them so that we can get to the bottom of what's going on with our money.
Okay, Wayne Easter, on behalf of the Liberals, what's your response to what we saw this week in terms of the Auditor General's report?
Well, it's been a very bad week for the Harper government, because the Auditor General has spelled out a number of areas where the government has been spending fairly unwisely. There is the case of the missing $3 billion, and that's very serious. They need to be able to account for that. But there's the clear analysis of search and rescue, where that has been a disaster, and it is putting lives at risk. And the further discussions on the budget itself and the budget implementation bill are clearly showing that this is one of the biggest spending. It is the biggest spending government in Canadian histories. With a deficit, a target that Minister Flaherty has never met, and so it's been bad all around for the government this week, because the facts are starting to come to light, and that this government is not good financial matters. As well, there's the whole issue of $338 million additional tax on middle-class Canadians through the tariff changes, and so the list goes on and on. Terrible, terrible financial management coming to light by this government.
Okay, I want to shift gears here. Because it is the end of a week, it's the end of the week which saw the second-year anniversary of the Harper majority government. So, Aaron O'Toole, weigh in on this. What do you think Canadians are thinking? What should they be thinking about year number 2, which just came to a close, of the Harper majority government?
Well, you've highlighted an important anniversary, Martin, and certainly I'm coming up on my 6-month anniversary I came in a by-election, but I joined a government that hit the 2-year milestone, and we've got a lot to be proud of. In fact, Canada really is the envy of the world. I saw that when I was working in business before running for office. Never before has Canada held the unique position that it currently holds under Prime Minister Harper. We're leading the G8 in terms of economic growth, in terms of 900,000 jobs created since the depths of the recession, most of those in the last 2 years of this mandate, most of those meaningful, long-term, full-time employment. Our financial institutions, our pension plans are the envy of the world. Really, Canada is in a leadership position, and countries are coming to us to try and to learn how to grow their economy, invest in skills training like we've done with Canada Jobs Grant. That is the Prime Minister's key focus, is jobs for Canadians. We've also done this while keeping taxes low on families and seniors. That's been our priority. And I think when you look at Europe, when you look at the slow growth our friends in the US have had, Canada really is a beacon of economic leadership, and that is a real achievement midway through the mandate.
Okay, Dan Harris, how would you evaluate the Harper majority government 2 years in?
Well, obviously I have a different approach, and I prefer to remember the second anniversary of the NDP becoming the official opposition for the first time in Canadian history. But I take a totally different approach. If you look at youth unemployment right now, it's double the national rate, sitting at 15%. In the GTA, for instance, recent studies have shown that half of working Canadians in the GTA are in a precarious work situation. They're not comfortable, they don't have pensions, they don't have benefits, they don't have job security, and that hurts our economy. The 900,000 jobs the Conservatives keep talking about creating, they neglect the fact that we've lost 500,000 jobs over that in manufacturing. The government's allowed several foreign takeovers that haven't been to Canada's benefit. Just right now, I mean, we have the situation going on in U.S. Steel and Nanticoke, where for the 3rd time since they bought Stelco, they've locked out the workers because all they're focused on doing is driving down Canadian standard of living through wage cuts and benefit cuts. We take a totally different approach. I mean, you look at what's going on with the F-35 fiasco that's happened over the last 2 years, multiple damning reports by the AG. As Wayne mentioned, what's going on with search and rescue. The government has been not doing a very good job as managers of our economy or in the actual management of government. We just seem to see problem after problem after problem, and what we need is a government that's actually going to take public administration seriously.
Okay, let's get to Wayne Easter on behalf of the Liberals. How would you evaluate 2 years in the Harper government, or what other thoughts you have on this?
Well, I know what a lot of people are saying. Has it only been 2 years? How could this much damage be done to Canada and its reputation and the middle class
3 omnibus budget bills
in 2 years? Because most people, I think, are saying, I wish it was 4 so we could get rid of them. The fact of the matter is that internationally our reputation is in tatters. We've spent more time attacking the United Nations, or John Baird has spent a lot of time attacking the United Nations. We didn't get our place in the Security Council. We're seen as a poorer nation internationally than we have been in the past. We're not seen as a middle neutral player who can go in peacekeeping missions and kind of be seen as a middle player who can negotiate fairly with both sides. We're seeing the attack on the seasonal industries and the unemployed in this country through the employment insurance system, to the point that the 4 Atlantic premiers, 3 different political parties, and 4 leaders, first ministers of 4 provinces come out last week going after the federal government pretty strenuously on how the federal government is undermining those seasonal industries in those provinces. That's a serious matter. We are a country under Stephen Harper that's absolutely devoid of federal leadership. of a vision for the country that tries and ties the provinces together and have them cooperate together to make the country stronger than the sum of its parts. So it's been a very, very difficult 2 years for the middle class, and I think people are beginning to see through Stephen Harper. The other thing that is coming through very clear, and the example was yesterday, when Mark Garneau, Canada's first astronaut, the guy to use the Canadarm, was not invited to NASA, bringing that Canadarm back to the Military Aviation Center Space and Aviation Center to be put in the museum. He wasn't even invited. Why? Because of partisan politics by Stephen Harper. You see the attack ads for trust and
okay, on that note, we're going to have to...
It just never ends the kind of hate and fear that we're getting from Stephen Harper in this country.
Okay, on that note, we're going to have to wrap up. We're out of time.
Good point.
Okay, we were going to have to wrap up on that point, but I want to thank you all for taking the time. I do know you all agree on one thing. We are starting the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I'm going to out all three of you. All three of you are Toronto Maple Leafs fans.
Can you imagine?
So
they're finally right on one thing.
We'll leave you with that unanimity and unanimity of purpose. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks, Mark.
Take care.